This video is a case study of a real listing appointment and one homeowner's misconception about their home's value. But first, let me ask you, do you know how much your home is worth? Not how much it's worth to you, and not how much you hope that you could sell it for, but what you could actually get for it on the open market. For most of us, our home is our largest investment, and can you imagine not understanding the value of your largest investment? Amazingly, most people don't. This homeowner had the misconception that higher prices in another neighborhood meant that they could raise the price on their home, and I get into why we don't comp between different neighborhoods with some specific examples in this case. This homeowner had misconceptions about their home's value relative to other homes that had sold in the neighborhood. They also had some misconceptions about what homes in their neighborhood actually had sold for, and they had some misconceptions about actions that they needed to take in order to get their home ready to fetch the highest price. You might be thinking, isn't that my job as the realtor to educate them and to convince them to make better decisions? Yes, it is, but I see all the time where homeowners have misconceptions and then they are choosing the agents to work with who will buy into their misconceptions, which I don't think is a recipe for success. Everything in this video is anonymized. I use stock photos to get the point across. I'm never going to show photos of someone's home without their permission. I don't reveal the name of the town or the neighborhood, but the numbers that I show you are the actual numbers. Here's a few things that I hear all the time, and it's okay if that's you. We're all here to learn. The house down the street sold for I paid $350 10 years ago, and I know prices have doubled. I know we can sell for $80 more than the Smiths. We just spent $40 on a kitchen. I invested $200,000 in this house, and I know that I can get $300 out. Money in doesn't necessarily equal money out. So let's get into some details. Hey, you might be wondering, what am I standing in front of? So this is a living wall. I used to be in this business and I made a video about building my house. There's a link up there. These are real tropical plants. I've got ferns and begonias and corn plants and other ferns and philodendrons in here. It makes my kitchen bright and happy, and I use it as a backdrop when I'm making videos sometimes. We'll get back to the case study. In the listing appointment, we started off the pricing discussion by my asking this couple what they thought their home was worth. Right out the gate, they told me homes are selling in the 600s just up the road, and they think that they should be close to that. They also said that their home is the largest in the neighborhood. Their basement is fully finished, which they explained to me was not common at all in the neighborhood, that most of the homes had unfinished basements. They think their home would sell for around $600. I asked if they knew what homes were selling for in their neighborhood. They said the average sale is around $450. I knew that some of these were misconceptions, but I put in the work to try to bring them toward a realistic valuation. So there is an actual definition for market value. Market value is the most likely sale price of a property when both the buyer and the seller are acting prudently without any undue pressure. Basically, market value is what the buyer and seller will agree to in terms of price in a normal circumstance, not a short sale, not a foreclosure. What this translates to for you as a seller is the price is what the buyer is willing to pay. With market value, we're using all the data at our disposal in order to predict what that buyer is likely to pay. So let me just say this again. Market value doesn't mean what you think you should get. It doesn't mean that you get a guaranteed return on the improvements that you put into the property. It certainly doesn't mean your wildest dreams. And if you bought the home 10 years ago with an expected appreciation rate, it doesn't mean that either. It means what the buyer is willing to pay. So when we look at market value, we want to look at comparables. Usually we just say comps within the same neighborhood. If you're in a rural area and not in a neighborhood, then this will be within a fairly compact radius. But in this case, and most of the time, we're looking at a neighborhood. The reason that we don't comp a home in neighborhood A against a home in neighborhood B, if we can avoid it at all, is because there are inherent differences between the neighborhoods that might not be picked up when you're looking at just the home itself. Different neighborhoods are by definition in different locations, and location matters. They can be in different school districts. In Virginia, HOAs are very common, and every HOA is going to have its own characteristics that can affect the value of properties in that neighborhood. Even if your neighborhood is 1 mile from a shopping center and another neighborhood is a mile from another shopping center, they're two different shopping centers and they have two different characteristics, and that can affect home value. So this homeowner was fixated on property values of the neighborhood up the road. So I gave them some concrete and specific reasons that the neighborhoods are fundamentally different and can't be compared. So the two neighborhoods do have some very similar characteristics. They are both predominantly detached single-family homes on quarter-acre lots. Nearly all of them are two-story with a basement, but there are some very critical differences. At the listing appointment, the homeowners wanted to focus on the differences of age and size. As far as age, the homes up the road are just being built. That entire neighborhood has been built in the past few years, whereas these homeowners, their home is about 25 years old, and the majority of homes in their neighborhood were built all around the same time, right around 2000. Their argument is that quality of construction has gone way downhill in the past few decades, and that people should be willing to pay more for a home that was more sturdily built. Now, there is a lot of criticism of new construction these days, and there have been some high-profile lawsuits against several of the larger home builders. But that doesn't mean that all new construction is bad. In determining market value for your home, my job is not to say what people should be willing to pay for. My job is to help educate you and help set a price based on what people are willing to pay for. Another difference that the homeowners were really focused on was size. Their home is over 4,200 square feet, and homes in their neighborhood typically range from about 2,500 to 4,000 square feet. In the neighborhood that they're comparing their home against, homes tend to be about 1,000 square feet smaller. And very similarly, their argument is more square footage equals a higher sale price. Well, square footage is one variable, and it can be a big one, but it's not the only variable. And so we look into some of the others. Both neighborhoods are planned developments, and they're surrounded by trees, so you don't really see what's going on outside the neighborhood from inside. Both neighborhoods have a main entrance, but what is just outside that entrance is quite different. Just outside the main entrance to this homeowner's neighborhood is a 4-lane highway that it's about a mile, mile and a half before you get to the freeway exit, which is fairly convenient. But along that mile to mile and a half are multiple gas stations, a truck stop, self-storage, several contractor yards. That's fine, but it gives a certain character to that area that is a different character from just outside the entrance of the other neighborhood. So the other newer, higher-priced neighborhood just outside its entrance is also about 1 mile of road until you get to another exit on the same freeway. That road is a tree-lined country road. So between the freeway exit and the entrance to the neighborhood, you basically only see trees and a glimpse of a field here and there. Will it stay like that? Will it be like that in 20 years? I don't know. If I'm working with you as a buyer, I would want to find out some answers to those questions. But most buyers don't. So for our purposes here, what matters right now is what people see right now. And what they see right now are just trees and country road. But some more profound differences versus the offsite are what is happening inside the neighborhoods. Within this neighborhood are well-maintained homes and some mature trees. Nearly 100% of the neighborhood is individual lots and roadways. There's a little bit of open space around a stormwater pond. So let's compare this against the neighborhood that they are comparing their home against. It is a golf course community. When you first pull in, you see the fairways. There are 18 holes that thread their way all through the entire community. There's a wide landscaped median boulevard when you first pull in, and immediately you see brand new playgrounds with lots of playground equipment and tennis courts and basketball courts and then golf courses visible from nearly everywhere within the neighborhood. These are fundamentally different amenities, and when you're buying a home, you're not just buying the building and the lot, you're buying into the neighborhood. So what the market is telling us in this situation is that home buyers are willing to pay over $600,000 for a new home in a golf course community, even though it is a little bit smaller than some other homes. Versus this homeowner's neighborhood, where the homes are equally nice and they are larger, but there are fewer amenities. What I hope you'll take away from this part is that when considering your home's value, it's important not just to consider the building itself, not just to consider the lot itself, but also to consider the location and the amenities of the community. When you're ready to sell, I hope you'll work with a highly qualified realtor who can provide an expert opinion of market value. But like I mentioned before, some people are so committed to their own misconceptions that they will only work with people who will go along with those misconceptions. So let's dig into comps inside the neighborhood. So in understanding your home's value, we already covered that we need to stick to the same neighborhood if at all possible. We also want to compare against homes that are the most similar to your home within a pretty recent short period of time. In this case, I only found one home in the neighborhood that was over 4,000 square feet with 5 or more bedrooms that had a finished basement that had sold within the last 6 months. One is not enough for comps. So we can go back in time and find something that is very similar to your home that sold for longer ago and then do a time adjustment. Or we can find some sales that are more recent and do some material adjustments on those, such as adjusting from 4 bedrooms up to 5 or 6. Neither of those adjustments is perfect and they can be a little tricky. In this case, I did both, but because I'm also a little bit of a numbers guy and I groove on this stuff, I did a historical study as well. Even though comps typically only go back about 6 months, I went back 10 years in this case just to show historical patterns and trends. This homeowner had been in the home for 23 years, and so 10 years ago was like yesterday to them. So on this graph, just to give you an orientation, I plotted out all the sales of all homes in that neighborhood over the past 10 years. The horizontal axis on the bottom is time. We're going from 2016, 10 years ago, to 2026, present. The vertical axis on the left is dollars, where we're going up to 500,000. The highest sales recorded in this neighborhood to date have been just over 450,000. So this is one misconception that the homeowner had. They told me that they thought that sales were averaging around 450 recently. What's accurate is that home sales have been averaging a little bit more than 400 in their neighborhood, and 450 is the higher end, not the average, and not the median. Homes that I'm considering a direct comp to this one, the homes that are most similar, I put a big red dot on there. These are homes with 5 or more bedrooms, over 4,000 square feet, and a finished basement. And as you can see, there are not many homes in the neighborhood that have sold that meet those criteria. What you can see is that homes that meet this criteria tend to be at the top of the price range in the neighborhood. So I break this down into some individual criteria. Next up, square footage. The big red dots are the homes in the neighborhood that have sold that have more than 4,000 square feet, like this homeowner's does. You can see that there is a strong correlation between square footage and sale price. More square footage, higher sale price, not rocket science. There are some green dots that are also at the top of the price range, including recently. Those are homes in the 2,000 to 3,000 square foot, about half the size. And I didn't do a deep dive into why did those homes sell for so much, but that would be interesting to do. Next up, I look at bedrooms. There are more homes in the neighborhood that have 5+ bedrooms than there are homes that have more than 4,000 square feet. This homeowner's home has both. It has 6 bedrooms and over 4,000 square feet, which does put it at the top of the material range for that neighborhood. Similar to square footage, we could see that more bedrooms usually translates into a higher sale price. Those red dots representing the 5+ bedrooms, they're right up at the top of the scale. Next, I look at basements. So this homeowner told me that finished basements were not common in their neighborhood, and they thought that by having a finished basement, they were really driving up the sale price. The data tells me that this is a misconception. There are a lot of homes in this neighborhood that have finished basements, and I'm not seeing a strong correlation between finished basement and sale price. To be thorough, I looked at a few other characteristics, including age. Age is not an issue here at all. Pretty much every house in the neighborhood is about the same age. So going back to the direct comps here, their home is definitely at the top of the pack as far as this neighborhood goes. Highest bedroom count, most square footage, also has a finished basement. I get into condition a little bit later. And if I look at appreciation rate, it's about 5% year over year. It looks like it was probably closer to 6 or 7% 3 or 4 years ago, and probably closer to 3 or 4% in the past few years, but it's a fairly small data set. So what does that mean for market value? First off, market value is not a specific number. There's no way that any of us can predict down to the dollar exactly what someone is going to pay for a home. We dial it into a range. I'm a very graphic person and I like to show it this way. I show 5 columns on here. List price, whether or not you're likely to get multiple offers, what I would expect for days on market, how likely I think it is that we're going to need to drop the price or accept a lower offer in order to sell it. And then finally, where do I predict that it's actually going to sell? In this case, I didn't see any reason to go above 500 for the analysis. My prediction for this house is that if it is listed at 500 or more, that it will sit on the market for a long time, not get multiple offers, and be subject to cutting the price. Then as we dial that number back to something maybe around 465, 475, I think it's much more likely to sell in that price range. One tier from the bottom, I show 450. 450 is generally proven in this neighborhood. Comparable homes in this neighborhood have already sold for 450 within the past 6 months. As a pricing strategy, this home could be listed for maybe 440. That could be a strategy to get multiple offers, to sell very quickly, get that days on market down, and potentially to be bid up. So with this home, I think there's a reasonable strategy at listing it somewhere between 440 on the low and maybe 475, possibly 480 on the high, but I do not think it is wise to list it for more than that. There's just not data to support that sales price. So I had to break it to this homeowner that even though their house is bigger, and even though they think that it is sturdier than the new homes that are being built up the road, the market is already speaking to us that people are willing to pay much more for the homes up the road in the golf course community than they are for the slightly older homes, even though they're potentially higher quality. But I've got one other graph in here, condition. Condition can mean a whole range of things. The quality of the roof, the quality of the HVAC system, structural issues, all of those. In this case, I'm looking a little bit more at the way that the home presents, the way that it's staged. This homeowner wants to get the most money out of their house possible, and I bet you do too. Presentation can absolutely help you sell for more. So let's use an analogy that's a little bit more familiar than buying a home. Most people buy 1 to maybe 4 homes in their life, but I bet you've bought a lot of burgers. You can buy a burger at McDonald's. You can buy a burger at a concession stand at a football game. You can buy a burger at a high-end steakhouse. In all cases, it's just a burger. You might pay $2 for a burger, or you could pay $20 for a burger. The $20 burger isn't 10 times bigger. I bet it's not 10 times tastier. In my experience, if you get a big burger at a steakhouse, it's usually more difficult to eat because it's like too tall and things kind of fall apart. And yet we're willing to pay more for it anyway. I think the key difference is the presentation, the way that it looks, and also the setting that you're in. So yeah, people are willing to pay for that. We'll reel this back into homes. This homeowner painted almost every room in their home some sort of bright color, ranging from bright red, orange, yellow, There were some pinks and purples that were in the bedroom. Also, there were several people living in this house, and it was full of personal possessions and lots of furniture. I talked with them about a strategy for moving about half, maybe even 2/3 of their stuff out in order to help show the house, but also a plan for trying to paint. Before I was a realtor, I used to get so upset when I would hear real estate agents talk about always paint your home in neutral colors, because I thought that that was interior design advice, and it really is not interior design advice. It's advice designed to help potential buyers see themselves in your home. Because when people walk into your home and they see your bright paint colors, they're seeing your personality and they're seeing your things, and they have a hard time seeing themselves in there. That can translate into how much you can sell for, because you could be attracting fewer buyers, and there could be some ready, willing, and able buyers that you're just turning off. Now, the neighborhood up the road with the houses that are selling well into the 600s, even though they're a little bit smaller. Now, it does have all the amenities, but every one of those homes is presented in a way that appeals to the current generation of buyers. Bright natural light, neutral colors, clean, open, airy. So if we look through these photos, we see a lot of white, a lot of neutral colors, some beiges, some grays, some light browns. And people can see themselves and their own possessions and their own families in that. It's a lot easier to see adding color to a neutral palette than it is to see taking away really heavily saturated color from a home. Decluttering and neutralizing are concrete steps that you can take in order to make your home more palatable to a broader selection of buyers, which almost always translates into a faster sale time, which can translate into a higher sale price. Cleaning and painting are usually the highest ROI items. For every dollar that you put into, say, renovating a kitchen, you're probably not going to get $1 back out of it. But for every dollar that you put into cleaning and painting, you're probably going to get a few dollars back out of it. I hope this video was helpful for thinking about your home's value. You might be paying attention to recent sale prices, but the sale prices that matter are the ones that are in your neighborhood or very close to you, homes that are most similar to your home. Sale prices in neighborhoods that are completely unlike your neighborhood are probably not applicable at all. When you see homes selling in your neighborhood, if they have open houses, go take a look if you can. I bet the ones that are the cleanest and have a neutral, uncluttered palette are probably going to sell the highest. So if you want to paint your walls bright red and bright yellow, you do you. I did exactly the same thing in a prior house. I loved the blood red music room and the bright yellow Tuscan dining room and kitchen. But when we got ready to sell it, everything got repainted neutral. So I recommend that you have a plan for doing the same thing. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, please like and subscribe. It really helps me get the message out to a broader audience. And I might have said some things in this video that you think are interesting or even controversial. Leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. If you're interested in buying or selling a home in Virginia, you can find me at bradgarner.com. I'd love to hear from you.